what's happening, everyone? It is I, the man, the myth, the mustache. Tim here, and I've got a brand new video for you. Welcome to part 4 of What If Midoriya Had a Magic Quirk. Please sit back and relax because you are in for a treat. And with that little introduction out of the way, let's get this story going, shall we? The next day, on their way to UA, Bakugo and Midoriya found themselves surrounded by a horde of microphones and cameras. Apparently, the media had quickly found out about All Might's presence at the school and were desperate for an interview and any information about him. The blonde's temper was quick to rise, as he and his friend were incessantly hounded by the ludicrously pushy reporters. Right as he was about to snap, Midoriya pointed his finger in a random direction. "That must be All Might right now!" The reporters turned to see no one, heads snapping back to see the duo booking it into the school and away from the reporters. With the media vultures distracted, Midoriya grabbed Bakugo's arm and dragged him inside of the security gates of the school, ensuring his best friend wouldn't be charged with several cases of murder. Once inside, Bakugo huffed his thanks, sort of. "You should have let me blow up those bastards, nerd!" He paused for a moment. "But I guess I owe you for making sure I wasn't charged with a felony." Midoriya rubbed his temples, all too used to the antics of Bakugo, before accepting the rather pathetic excuse of a thanks. Midoriya half-listened to the angry student's rant about how annoying and useless the media was, even taking great pleasure in pointing out how, if Bakugo were the top hero like he had planned, this would expose him to even more media presence. Thoroughly chagrined, Bakugo attempted to retort, but was unable to find one strong enough to go against his friend's solid logic. He cursed under his breath as they finally entered the homeroom, encountering loud strings of conversation that made it hard for either of the boys to hear themselves think. The sound of a throat being cleared and the familiar face of their teacher appearing quickly had the students clamming up quickly. "Good. Now that you've finally all shut up, I have an important announcement. One that'll affect your paths and lives as heroes forever." His tone was serious and frightening all of his students as chills went down their spines. "It's time for you to pick a class rep." A collective sigh of relief was heard from the class. Then the pandemonium began. Shouts came from almost every student in the classroom, each one believing they would be the superior choice for class representative. A strict voice cut through all the noise, turning heads to Ida as he tried to remind his classmates of the severe importance of their choice, and how not everyone would be cut for the position. He promptly proposed the idea of having an election for representative, which was instantly criticized because of how little the students knew each other. It would most likely end up being everyone voting for each other. Ida explained that that would mean that those who had more than one vote would be the most trusted person to lead the class. The class reluctantly agreed, and a vote was taken, Ida shaking with a myriad of emotion as he realized he had no votes. Sato spoke up, reminding him of what the class had told him earlier, with clear proof in front of them showing they were right. Midoriya's eyes were drawn to the board, where he discovered he had somehow obtained the most votes, beating Yaoyorozu. Confusion sat at the forefront of the emerald-eyed teen's mind. Even with years of being buddies with Katsuki Bakugo, could not erase the constant degradation he had faced in his younger years. He felt slightly off-put by the decision that he would be the class representative, but chose to put on a mask of confidence and roll with the deck of cards he was being dealt. As lunch rolled around, Midoriya found himself in the awkward situation of deciding whether to sit with his childhood friend, who was fully capable of mass amounts of violence, or his new acquaintances, who seemed extremely eager to spend some time with him. His decision was made as Mina grabbed hold of the red-eyed adolescent to drag him to sit with her and her friends. He protested fiercely before Midoriya stepped in, explaining they could both afford some space between each other just so people didn't decide on the wrong idea. Both of them shuddered and moved to separate tables. The magician enjoyed his lunch with Uraraka and Ida, finding both of them a unique experience comparable to the lunches he usually spent together with Kacchan. The peace of their lunch was quickly disrupted by the blaring sounds of alarms as a flashing red light appeared overhead. A robotic voice reported a Level 3 security breach, sending many of the upperclassmen into a wild panic. Ida reached out to a second year, desperately curious to know what the voice had meant and why it had caused such pandemonium. Upon the revelation it meant someone had managed to break into UA, the three decided to follow the evacuating students, an action they soon came to regret. The cacophony of people crying out in panic was deafening, as Midoriya found himself quickly separated from his two classmates, being shoved around like a rag doll. He held steady to the book bag containing his grimoire, fearing that someone could end up knocking it out of his bag and leaving the ancient text a trampled, torn mess. One last push slammed him into the glass of a nearby window, making him groan in pain. He was forced to look outside as he was forced to stay plastered to the glass. Midoriya's eyes widened as he saw a familiar crowd of news-hungry vultures that he and Bakugo had stopped by this morning. It's just the media? Realizing that everything was being blown out of proportion, he raised his voice, trying to be heard. Everyone, please calm down. We're not in danger. It's just a bunch of reporters. The freckled boy's voice was lost amongst the chaos. A dejected feeling overcame him, until he saw a familiar head of blue hair rise above the crowd. Ida! And isn't that Uraraka's quirk? What are they? He was cut off by the roar of engines, as Ida spiraled out of control, colliding roughly with the wall above the exit. The commotion attracted the attention of the students, making them freeze for a moment. The bespectacled teen's voice carried like the cry of a lion. Please calm down. This behavior is highly unbefitting of students of such a noble academy. The words made several people's faces fill with color. If you had been listening, you would have heard that the people that somehow infiltrated UA are simply the media. Panic and fear slowly filtered out from the minds of the UA students, with everyone calming down. Ida climbed down from his perch, sending a thankful look to both Midoriya and Uraraka. All the students were quietly ushered to their next classes. Midoriya deep in thought about the situation. He wasn't able to do anything in that situation, but Ida handled it quickly and effectively. As they walked into their next class, the freckled magician quietly asked his teacher if he could make an announcement. While I am extremely grateful for your belief that I will make a good class representative, I believe I must resign from my post. He took a steadying breath. During all the chaos from the media infiltration, I was rendered useless within moments, too focused on keeping my spellbook safe. But Ida took charge and calmed the entire crowd. That is why I believe him to be a better choice for class representative. Midoriya smiled and beckoned the taller male up to the front, where Ida bowed and swore to do his best as representative for Class 1A. Everyone clapped politely, smiling at the exuberance radiating from the blue-haired teen. By the UA entrance, a different mood filled the air. Nezu, the Chimera principal of the UA Hero Academy, knelt next to the remains of what was a solid steel gate, now turned to dust. He turned his head and noticed a small stone with an odd figure carved into it. As he picked it up, he felt a shiver go down his spine. Aizawa, I must ask you to be careful and watch over your students. Something here simply does not sit right with me. The hybrid animal turned to the 1A teacher, giving him the stone. I would also like to request that you show this to the magician in your class. I cannot help but feel the two are somehow connected. You can't think the kid played a part in this, can you? No, not at all. I simply think that Midoriya may not be the only one capable of the reality-bending feats we have seen him perform anymore. The next day was filled with excitement for the students of Class 1A, as their teacher announced they would be going on a field trip to train and rescue exercises. Many cheered as they discussed how eager they were to test their quirks out. Midoriya showed some of the most excitement, having several spells he knew by heart that would perform admirably in a rescue mission. The group of young adults grouped outside of the prestigious school, a bus waiting for them to board. Ida attempted and failed to form a boarding line so he could use the seating chart he had somehow already created. The chart turned out to be all for naught, as the bus layout was severely different from the one he had planned. Midoriya and Uraraka offered the dejected teen small smiles as they went to take a seat. As the ride began, idle conversation cropped up, passing around until it reached the subject of Bakugo and Midoriya. So, Midoriya, you and Bakugo have obviously known each other for a while. Did you two plan on coming to UA together? Suyu tilted her head at the two of them. Yep. In fact, I think we decided to go to UA when we were still toddlers. All Might was a big inspiration to us, and what better place to become like him than to attend the school he went to? Wow, you really admired him that much? Both of us did. The freckled magician was interrupted by a snort from his best friend. The only reason I liked All Might is because he's at the top, and I'm eventually gonna take his place. The fierce blonde crossed his arms, a smirk on his face. Abracadabra's the real nerd here. His room is decked out in All Might shit. Don't start, Kacchan. We both had All Might birthday cakes until we were 9. And I distinctly remember you cuddled the limited edition plushie Auntie Mitski gave you until you turned 11. The whole bus attempted to hold back their laughter as Bakugo's face turned as red as his eyes. Shut up, nerd, or I'll blow your face to... Bakugo's shout was quickly interrupted by their teacher, who announced they had arrived. The students gawked at the humongous building in front of their eyes as they exited the bus. A figure in white stood at the entrance. Greetings, students. It's a delight to have you at my facility. A feminine voice emanated from the person in a puffy white suit. You may know me as the Pro Hero 13. I welcome you to the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, or the USJ. Aizawa walked around to join the other hero, allowing her to continue. The duty of heroes is not only to subdue villains, but to also keep the general population safe. This means that our quirks can be dangerous if we do not control them properly. For example, the hero held up one finger into the air. My quirk, Black Hole, could easily and indiscriminately kill others. That's why you're here today. Our focus will be in training you to save lives and create a better understanding and control of your quirk. So let's do our best. Let's push onward and go beyond. Plus Ultra. The students all responded with similar cries, hyped up by their new instructor's speech. They all eagerly followed the two pros into the building, unknowing of the looming danger that would soon come over them. Midoriya paused by the door, feeling a sparking feeling for a second before it was gone. Slightly disturbed, the freckled magician continued to enter the building. And that's our video for the day, so thank you all for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed it. Before I go, there's a little bit of housekeeping I want to do. First, We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing pleasures. All the information you'll need is right below in the description, so please feel free to check out all the other incredible content our team creates. Second, on behalf of We the Celestials, I want to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Please give the writer and the audio editor and the video editor some love. They do a lot of work here. Their details are also in the description. But that's it for today's video, so thank you all for watching and have an amazing day. Before I go, I do want you to know that if you're going through some rough times, like you're just overwhelmed and exhausted, it's okay to take a break. It's okay to hand things over to another person. It's okay to ask for help. Please, don't overwhelm yourself. Don't push yourself any further than you've already gone past your breaking limits. Take a break and feel better. Rest is always important, because you should be your first priority. With that being said, be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, and stay awesome. This has been Tim. Mustache out.